Okay, so 3, 2, 1, we are live. So, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of my podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Jorge. Jorge is a project manager at Microsoft. Today, in this episode, we'll be talking about what a PM does, how you get into Microsoft as a project manager, what your day to day work is as a project manager, and some other good stuff. So, welcome, Jorge. How are you doing?
Hey, hello everybody. Happy to join here, Muhammad. Thank you for bringing me.
Yeah. So I guess to give you guys a bit of context. So when you work as a software engineer, you work in teams where you have a software engineering manager, so someone who manages you, and you also work alongside someone called a product manager. And a product manager, I guess, Jorge, you can dive deep into this. So what exactly is a product manager?
Well, basically the project manager is responsible to create the roadmap about the story, create a roadmap behind the product. So basically you need to create what is going to be the story around the roadmap about the product, create what is the expectation, and most important, have to report for LT team, right? So I have to give them what we are building and why we are building this product. So we have to
Hmm.
provide some data, we have to provide some insights to support the idea behind the product. So that's the main goal of the product. Create a backlog, create work for the engineering side, and provide the insights to support that work.
Hmm. So you mentioned reporting to LT. So what does that stand for? LT for people who don't know.
Oh, okay. The L team is leadership team, so it's basically the
Hmm.
managers and the stakeholders for the product.
Hmm. So giving report to them, defining product vision and work for engineers. So I
Yeah.
guess maybe you could go walk us through like an average day for you. Like when does your day start? What does it like what do you do in a day?
Mhm. Well, I think initially you need to be prepared for a bunch of meetings because all my days or most of my days it's spending a lot of meetings
Hmm.
across the org. Because, for example, I have to talk with uh, the pairs. I mean, for example, in this scenario, I have to talk with the calling partners or calling also PMs. I have to talk with the engineering side to see how everything goes.
Hmm.
So I have to, back to the questions. It's prepare my day with the. I have to go to my agenda to see what is going to be the next meeting that I have during the day. Try to prepare the topics, also probably start checking the backlog regarding for the most hot topics that I have
Hmm.
during the week, for example, or during the day, the hot topics that I need to solve. Then review the customers. Probably per day I have 2 3 meetings with customers or possible customers that they want to use our product, and then spend 3 hours working in probably in the backlog just to check if everything goes well, create some specs on writing stories around the specs. So probably that's
Hmm.
my day, but
Hmm. And I guess okay, so I guess so walk us through your journey into becoming a project manager. We'll dive deep into like so say if someone else wants to become a project manager, they should do, what skills they should learn. But I guess for now, walk us through your journey. Like how did you become a project manager? Like what was your journey like?
well, I start in the software world probably 20 years ago. I started as a software developer.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that those days were working with Visual Basic 6 probably, and start from there and start involving more in activities around architecture, around management stuff, and probably like the last, how can I say, 5 or 8 years of my job, I start spending more time in the management and try to consolidate all the work stream for another teams in one single work stream and try to help all the teams to deliver capabilities or deliver new features. So I think in an indirect way, I become a product manager in my previous jobs because
Mhm.
I have the responsibility to handle the backlog, create and create stories around those features and try to solve the problems or try to unify the point of view or several teams and unify in one single work stream. So I think that those experience around the previous job came to an end or came to a goal when I become PM here in Microsoft. So that will that that would be my advice. It's
Mhm.
try to collect all the previous experience, try to solve the problems, try to understand the goal of the product or the company, and from there you can start learning ways to provide a product or to guide the product.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. Well, I guess another question I wanted to ask you, so this is related to like what your day looks like, your day-to-day activities, is a lot of people like online, they hear about how like a company, a big tech company has a work-life balance for engineers, but not a lot of people have stated like what work-life balance is for project managers in companies. So what do you feel like is the work-life balance at Microsoft for a project manager as yourself?
Well, specifically here in Microsoft, I think it's pretty well. I mean, I don't know if it's like a cultural behavior, but in here in Mexico, it's probably like a worst because it's like you have to be 100% of your time. You need to be aware of the product, aware of the team,
Hmm.
aware of the everything. And here in Microsoft, I think it's better that approach. You can walk with your dogs and go to the park, and at the same time you can host a meeting. So I
Hmm.
think for that side, I think the work balance it's pretty well. I know that it's like everything. You have a bad days in which you can spend the 10 hours, 12 hours because it's like a hot fix or it's going to deliver date, right?
Hmm.
But in general, I can say that it's pretty good.
Hmm. And just to give you guys a bit more context, so Jorge is based out of Microsoft Mexico. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
another information. Yeah, didn't tell. Okay, I guess so. You touched upon this briefly in your answer to the previous question on how you became a Microsoft. So someone wants to become a project manager, like that. That's their goal. They want to break into the tech industry at big tech companies as a project manager. What are the skills that they should focus on? Like what skills that they should work on?
I think I have two main skills. One is communication, and I
Hmm.
think it's very crucial because you have to provide in different kind of ways, but at least prepare emails, prepare some OneNotes, or prepare some documents to provide to LT. I mean, for the leadership and to help to provide data and communicate that data to the LT or to the managers to support your ideas, right? So that's
Hmm.
one way of communication, and also you have to communicate those ideas in a technical side or a user story side to provide what you want to build. Or I had to answer two questions. One is why, and that answered by LT, and
Hmm.
what it's from engineering side. So those communication skills that you need to build, it's write stories, write the reasons that you need to build this and what you need to build this. So I think communication is pretty important, even if you want to write, speak. Oh, and the second skill that I recommend is be a good listener because in some scenarios you need to listen carefully what your customer wants, and from there you can start uh, learning from them, and also you need to listen to the people that it's the engineering side, the LT side, because in that way you will understand the reasons or understand the motivation of them to build the product and what is going
Hmm.
to be, for example, and and the objective keys. that you
Mm-hmm.
need to achieve. So I think those two skills, communicate and listen, it's the most useful skill as PM.
Mm-hmm. And I guess just another question. So these are the two things they focus on, communication and good listening. And not only listening, but also understanding information, asking the right questions. But
Yeah.
so for people who like who don't have a project manager job before, like they want to get a brand new one, like it will be their first job. How do they like market themselves? Like, oh, they have communication skills, they listen good, but how do they present that information to like recruiters, to people? Like, what are some of your tips, do you think? Like, how can you like bring the spotlight to yourself?
Well, I think, and probably this is like a startup methodology or a startup thing, but I encourage to create a product. So in that
Mm-hmm.
way, probably even if it's like a chat doc, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to create or bring what the market needs, and probably you need to start thinking um, like in an opposite way. I mean, if you are engineers, right, you always think in the technical things, right, and be
Mm-hmm.
more like a structured way. But my suggestion is try to think differently. For example, why we need a chat for docs, right? So start thinking, start building the small products, or start building small ideas, and try to uh, before to jump into the code, try to
Mm-hmm.
redact or try to draft something to understand the motivation of that product. In this way, you will start creating those critical thinking analysis or critical thinking uh, analysis before to
Mm-hmm.
jump directly into the code. So in this way, probably you don't have the background as a PM, as you mentioned, but you
Mm-hmm.
will start creating those kind of portfolio that you will need
Mm-hmm.
to present to a recruiter, or you will need to introduce yourself as I bring or I create this product, and you can speak around why was the motivation to create those
Mm-hmm.
products. And I think that could give you a background as motivation of create a product,
Mm-hmm.
and what's your thought process during the create the backlog to build that product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So not only like, so if you're an engineer, for example, like you know how to build stuff, but also thinking about like customers and like its usability and so on. So having
Yeah.
that mindset helps. Mm-hmm. And I guess one thing I wanted to ask, so how important is, so you mentioned you were a software developer before becoming a
Yeah.
PM. How important do you think is a like a technical background in becoming a PM? Like, do you need a software engineering background?
I don't think that you need a software engineer background, because, for example, I know a lot of PMs that they don't uh, take lessons from technical stack, or they don't have any
Mm-hmm.
engineering background. I think, and again, if you are like if you can structure a product, that you can define how is going to be a product handle, how is going to be the product interaction, probably you don't need that. You don't need to be what is GitHub, or what is going to be the most recent JavaScript framework, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you only need to take aware that you want to bring a product to life. Probably you need engineering, and probably you will need a UI designer or user
Mm-hmm.
research, right? And that's why you need to be open to hear a lot of feedback, and that's why you need to be a good
Mm-hmm.
listener, because the
Yeah.
market give you the signal, and also your college, I mean, the engineering side, probably you want to build uh, something with React, right? But at the end, it's going to be easy for using Angular or Vue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't think that for PM perspective needs a technical background. I think you will need to develop some skills around general topics, just like what is the database, or what is
Mm-hmm.
going to be server side or front end, back end. Those kind of tiny concepts or basic
Mm-hmm.
concepts
Like,
that you
yeah.
need to take aware. But I mean, you don't need to understand how the JavaScript framework works, or why do you need a service bus, or what do you need
Mm-hmm.
those technical decisions. That's why you
Mm-hmm.
need an engineering from your side and take all those decisions for you. But at least you need to be sure that you want to build and why you need to build this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. That's good. I think so. Another question I wanted to ask you, and this is something I've been like personally really curious about. So at a big tech company, so we are at Microsoft. So when Microsoft is introducing a new product, how involved are product managers in that research? Like, is that doing market research and like competitive analysis? Is that a job of a product manager, or is like are there other people involved in that as well?
Yeah, I mean, here in Microsoft, it's a lot of PMs, and there's like a seniors, there is like a bunch of levels that you need to
Mm-hmm.
take aware. Initially, some PMs or some senior PMs came to an idea, for example, to build a Teams application because they envision uh, a market, and that's why you need to have that thought process in which you need to find an an idea and comes to realization about something, right? That you envision that the market it's like needs, for example, in uh, this COVID 2 years ago, when everybody needs a way to communicate, a ways
Mm-hmm.
to find a ways to interact with people. They envision uh, we need a product to facilitate those ideas and communicate and connect with the people, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they create envision, they envision the main product, and the PMs and the rest of the PMs take pieces of this communication. Okay, so you will need a space for chat, space for SMS,
Mm-hmm.
space for calling, space for email. So, and that's why you need another little army for PMs to start
Mm-hmm.
envision in one single unit of work. Because if you want to achieve all the universe, probably it's going to take a while to deliver something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an army of PMs around one single product and one single team to give you the idea of a small piece of a small bits of the product. I don't know if that answer your question, but there is like
Oh
a
no, no, no.
bunch
Yeah, that
of
makes yeah.
a bunch
Yeah.
of PMs around the one single product.
Mm-hmm. So like at Microsoft, and I assume at other companies as well, there's is the procedure is like when you're defining a new product, there's like this senior panel of project managers that define the product, and then they
Yeah,
give like each piece of that product to like a group of program managers, product managers, who
yeah,
then like figure out what to do with that. Okay, that
yeah,
makes sense.
exactly.
And I guess, yeah, just another question I have. So with product management, product managers, they define a vision for the product. They define the customer requirements. They make sure all the engineering efforts are done correctly, that they align with customer needs. But then the last part of making a product successful is like sales and marketing. So how does like PMs collaborate with like sales and marketing teams to like make sure that their product is like actually like realistically successful? So how does
Yeah, I
that
mean,
collaboration look like?
yeah. For example, here in Microsoft, we have two areas. We have the customer engagement team that it's help us to track to customers, right, to us
Mm-hmm.
and say we have these customers interested in this piece of features, right? Or you can, and this is like advice also for all the ones to become a PM. You need
Mm-hmm.
to be very proactively looking in market signals, and you have to start communicating, create some blogs, create some area paths, or find
Mm-hmm.
your own way to do some
To do
marketing
like,
in your product.
yeah. Okay.
Because at the end, you have to attract all those customers or potential customers to your plate, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we have the customer engagement team that is very helpful for us. Also, we have the monetization team that they will help us to, okay, this is your product. How do you generate the revenue, right? At the
Mm-hmm.
end, what LT looks is, okay, you promise me if you want to build this product, you will get, I don't know, $1,000 per month, right?
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 per day regarding for your marketing. So we have these two customers to help us to deliver the the set expectation or realistic expectations around
Mm-hmm.
how is going to be the revenue. That is the important question that we need to answer for LT. What is going to be the revenue at the end? And the customer engagement team that will help us to do some marketing stuff, make some contacts with some customers that they want to engage the features and your product. And then with both of them, you have to uh, provide some insights around, hey, this product will deliver for banks specifically, and this list of banks that we already contact, they have interested, and we have to
Mm-hmm.
group them by this kind of revenue. And how it's going to be charged? Okay, let's talk with monetization and give me like some insights or some help there to give us the signal of, okay, this is going to be a good fit in the market because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the fixes, or it's going to be this kind of metrics around the usage, around the number of calls, for example, number of minutes in the call. We charge them for minutes during the call, right? So those two teams can help us to drive those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I guess we'll end it off with this question. So you've been a product manager at Microsoft for a couple of years now, and you've also, I mean, you have a technical background. You've obviously met like even virtually in person, like thousands of people at this time almost. So what is your advice for just people in general? So this isn't like not related to software engineering, but just in general for like students or like say high school or college students who like want to do great things. Like what are some of the things that you've identified in people? Like what are like the key things that they should focus on in life?
Well, that's a very broad question.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think my advice for them is do something. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's like and again, probably you came to an idea to build a product. But initially you need to define why is your motivation. To try to find your
Mm-hmm.
motivation around build things, or if you find motivation around solve issues, right? But initially, you need to find your motivation, even if it's the smallest thing in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and that motivation could give you the curiosity to find more alternatives. So find the motivation, find curiosity around how the things work and why the things work in this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you have the curiosity and you have the purpose of build something, in the future you will have the capabilities to always ask why, and the
Mm-hmm.
critical thinking to if is and ask yourself if is this if it is this the best way to do the things. So if you ask actively yourself those kind of questions, I think you will become more like a critical thinking in
Mm-hmm.
the world works, and in the future you can work uh, not only in these systems, design systems or engineering side, but also you can work as a doctor, for example, in
Mm-hmm.
why we need to, for example, in my case, I'm very like, I don't like the vaccines because it's always in the, I don't know how to pronounce the needle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm afraid of all those things. So why do you take the vaccines in like a pill or something? So why
Mm-hmm.
do you want to generate or revolution all the ideas around how the works work in this way and think differently? So I think that's my advice for this
Mm-hmm.
for your audience. Try to start thinking Why do you
Start
think what
thinking.
it is?
Yeah, start thinking for yourself, be critical, question things. So
Yeah,
whatever you see around, like don't take it for what it is, like question why it is like that. And I
exactly.
think this is like really key advice. I think not only does this help you in like your day-to-day life, like why do like people do things this way or why not this way, but I think it also helps you like it also helps you, excuse me, it also helps you recognize business opportunities as well, I feel like. So like if
Yeah,
there's like, say for example, like the example I can think on top of my head is like Starbucks. Like why do people like Starbucks so much? Like start asking those questions, like what do they do differently from like other cafes and like other things. So I think that also helps you, that like that advice helps you like analyze like business opportunities and also in
yeah,
life in general as well. So as you mentioned.
yeah,
So well, thank you
exactly.
so much, Jorge. I really appreciate you doing this. And I hope you guys have liked this episode as well. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So thank you so much, Jorge, for joining me today.
Don't worry. Take care.